Are we heading into a global recession? So my name is Paul McFadden. I'm going to discuss today how I believe that it's right around the corner and how we need to be prepared for what's about to come. Now, first and foremost, I'm surprised that this is not like mainstream media. I'm surprised that most people don't even know about this. It's very few people at all. Now, I don't know about you, but we should not be involved in business, especially property, without keeping a pulse on the market and the economy. And this is so important. It's vitally important that we don't forget that there's been cycles for hundreds of years and lots of different cycles, and cycles such as the cycle when a recession will be and so forth. And what I tend to do in this property game is I listen to a lot of economists that understand and know cycles and understand recessions and understand what we can do about it. And we have a big problem that's coming that is potentially going to be worse than 2008. All the indicators and all the signs say that very thing. So we need to understand a few things. We need to understand what caused the 2008 recession. And we need to understand that the next recession is imminent, is going to be far worse and most definitely different in the sense of what triggers it. And by understanding this and knowing what's happening, we can then, as professionals in this property game, or if you're just someone looking to get started in property, you understand when you can get that advantage, when you should be pivoting, when you should be focusing on what strategy, when you should be getting started and so forth. This is very important. Ignore this at your own risk. That's the key here. So let's look at the past. Let's look at 2008 because this is still fresh in most people's minds. A distant memory for most, but it's the thing that most people remember. There's been many, boom and bust cycles, bubbles over the last decades, but let's focus on 2008 for a moment. In 2008, it was credit. It was leveraged credit. It was subprime mortgages, and this came from the US. It was a global recession, but mainly Western than the whole world, even though the whole world was affected, but it really affected the Western world, all right? So US was where it really originated from, but in the UK, most people will remember Northern Rock. They were given 120% mortgages. That means if you're buying a property at £100,000, and let's say it was working condition in perfect order, they wouldn't only just give you £100,000 to buy the property, they'd give an extra £20,000 on top. And what did people do with that? They squandered it, took an extra holiday, bought a car, bought more depreciating things, and that there was the problem. You had self-cert mortgages that literally, if you just said that you earned a certain amount of money, you self-cert it and sign that, that was it. That was the verification process, and banks would just squander and give you money. It's bonkers, it's crazy. So in 2008, it was subprime mortgages. And what really triggered that, even though there was many banks failing, but the nail in the coffin, which really shook the world, was Lehman Brothers going under. So when Lehman Brothers, which closed its trading doors, closed the business down, that's when the whole world took note and started to panic. Now, when you go in a recession, it's not like you're in a recession and overnight house prices and everything just, drop significantly. Because when Lehman Brothers went down, that's when it really became global awareness. But prior to that, through 2006, 2007, that's where all the indicators and all the effects were actually happening. But no one was paying attention. And right now in 2019, this is like 2007 all over again, where 99% of people are blind and not even aware of what's about to hit them smack in the face. But there's many indicators and many things that are happening that people are missing. And this is the bizarre thing. I'm still speaking to property investors these days who are paying way over what they should be paying for property. I know a lot of new build developers that are buying land and they're overpaying for the land. The property in terms of the end value for the new developments is on inflated prices. That's a recipe for a disaster that's just about to happen. It's crazy that there's no thought process, no due diligence, no economy and what's happening taken into consideration about what's going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months in the short term. Now, let's talk about recession. How do you know that you're in a recession? If you have 2 consecutive negative quarters of growth against the GDP, the gross development product of a country, that then indicates that you're in a recession. So right now in the UK, we haven't had 1 quarter of negative growth. However, what do we have up and coming? we have the Brexit vote. And that there has already caused a lot of uncertainty over the last number of years, especially in and around London. And with this in mind, that's a massive concern because London, during 2008, it took a little blip. It did not drop like the rest of the UK in terms of house prices. It just took a little blip and it just continued to keep on rising. But since Brexit was announced a number of years ago, almost 3 years ago, it's been plateauing, and really the last year it started to decline. So London is going to be it's going to be more affected. It's going to be heavily affected. It's going to be property and real estate prices are going to be what most economists are saying be up to 65% drop. That's hard to even comprehend. That's like £1 million home dropping down to £350,000. I mean, how on earth can you even compute that and understand that that's what's going to happen? You know, even if it only dropped, 40%, that's £1 million home dropping down to 600,000. That's a hard one to take. So that's London, but London will cause a ripple effect throughout the rest of the UK, less or so the further you go away. But we've got the banking crisis throughout Europe. And we have, a lot of countries right now that are looking like they're just about to be bust. Now, 2008 should have been a lot worse, but it wasn't. And the reason why it wasn't a lot worse is because of two things. One, it's because we had government bailouts. Governments came in and started printing money. That's number two. We just started printing money. We started just devaluing money by printing, trillions globally. It's bonkers and bizarre that we did. So we've just pumped up this bubble so much that their backs against the wall, no other options right now. We're almost in most places, almost at neutral or, negative interest rates. This is just crazy to actually see what's unfolding right in front of our eyes and no one's paying attention or aware right now. This is scary. This is deeply concerning. And I'm going to talk about how you can turn this to your advantage. Because there's a silver lining. And you need to look at that. Entrepreneurs, business owners, those who are looking to, grow. We don't look at doom and gloom. We look at the doom and gloom and go, well, how can we turn this into our favour? As Warren Buffett says, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. And right now, others are being extremely greedy right now because what was happening in 2007 before the 2008 crash, everybody and anybody could get access to finance and money. People were just leveraging to the hilts, and this is what's happening right now in 2019. Now, what people don't understand is property prices here in the UK peaked in August 2018. That's like over a year ago, property prices peaked. Now, the illusion here, and why people are not woken up to this, is because there's still property on the market today that's selling at market value or over market value, and because people are still seeing that, we're in denial. But as a whole, based on the amount of properties that have been sold, we have started to decline since August 2018. And arguably right now, the latter part of 2019, properties are staying on the market a little bit longer. So all the indicators and signs are starting to be there, but people are not paying attention and picking up at the moment. I'm still seeing people paying over market value for property. I still see investors just not buying right in the first place. This is concerning for those people. This is where we're going to find and repeat the same processes of those people who weren't buying right pre-2008. Now, what's going to cause the recession this time around? Well, like I said, in the States, was what really triggered things in 2008 with subprime mortgages. It was credit. This time here, it's going to be, felt globally because it's going to be a global recession. And this plays into the 90-year cycle. You need to research and look at this stuff here. Economists are talking about that we're in a 90-year cycle. And a 90-year cycle is not a recession. It's a Great Depression. The last Great Depression was after World War I in the 1930s. And again, I wasn't born there, but I've done my research and that was not a good place to be. There's so much civil unrest globally, a lot of political arguments, there's all this kind of, pipped up energy, and it's a lot of negative behind it that's causing a lot of unrest globally. You've got talk with US and China and the trade war. You've got Brexit in terms of the UK wanting to split with Europe. You've got Italy who also want to, split from Europe as well. Now, Italy is almost walking into the same footsteps as Greece and looking like that country itself is going to be bankrupt. It doesn't have assets or value based on what it owes. So Italy is looking like it's going to collapse completely. And this time round in 2019 to 2020, there's no government bailouts. There's no more money to print. They can't keep on printing any more money. It's gone. It's gone beyond that. This is bizarre. This is just crazy. It's hard to even compute. And like I said, when we look at two negative quarters of decline that then indicate you're in a recession, Germany right now has already had a negative quarter and looks like it will be, probably the time you're watching this video, Germany will be in a recession because it will have had a second continuous negative growth as a quarter. And Germany, the biggest challenge that Germany have got there is they've got one of the biggest European banks, being the Deutsche Bank, that's paying off like 3,000 employees, and it looks like that bank alone is going to fail. You've got some of the big Italian banks, you've got some of the Spanish banks such as Santander. These banks here are banks, not just they banks, you can look at most banks, they are still feeling the effects of 2008, and they need to continue in government assistance and bailouts to continue for them to even grow. This is deeply concerning. Now, a lot of people say, well, what if these banks start to fail? Will people still be able to invest and buy property? Well, the answer is yes, because there's a lot of challenger banks, there's a lot of new banks. We even have our own property fund as well. And what we will be doing, especially us and other challenger banks, other commercial lenders out there, they will be lending to responsible investors. They'll be lending to investors who know how to buy property right, who are adding the right amount of value. They're not buying based on inflated prices or all the emotion and everything that's tied to it. So there's going to be lots of lending. There's a lot of wealthy families. I speak to a lot of economists. I know a lot of people in the know. I've got a lot of great advisors. I've got, billionaires and multiple 100 millionaires as advisors. And they're saying that them and many of their contacts and stuff are trying to take their funds from banks and other risky assets such as stocks and shares and putting it into property. And they're settling for 2 to 3% returns because they know that that's safer there than putting it into stocks and shares or putting it into risky and more volatile markets, and it's better to be in something getting a low interest return than being in banks that could potentially be wiped off. They're talking that this here being the Great Depression is going to be, or getting to a Great Depression is going to be the all-time reset. And the reason why they call it a depression is because it's going to be slow and long. This could be a 10-year cycle of, we recovered from the 2008 recession after about 3-4 years. Recovery signs started to happen. But this is looking like it's going to be 10 years of, real pain and a lot of jobs, a lot of unemployment, a lot of people getting paid off, house prices getting dropped. Like you're talking London, economists are saying is up to 65%. You're talking about in the States could be 50-60%. You're talking throughout Europe could be as much as 50-60%. You're talking China, and I'm going to come back to China in a moment, 75%. The Middle East already, I was in Dubai not so long ago, has already been down 40% and it's now looking like it's going to be 60%, and they've not even declared a recession. This is crazy. The rest of the UK, you're looking anywhere again from 30 to 50%. Now, when we have Brexit, and the severity of what happens in our economy here in the UK will depend on whether it's a deal or a no deal. If it's a no deal, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty and we'll probably be affected a lot more than it would be if we had a deal. But the fact is, life goes on, and more importantly, we as an economy in the UK will thrive even more than we ever did before, but we will still be caught up with what's happening globally, because we have royally messed this up. When I say we, I'm talking about those who run our countries all over the world by continuing to print money. And that leads me on to China right now. Now, China just now is, over the last number of years, they've been a developing country. They've invested massively in their infrastructure. The downside and problem of that is that they have lots of developments that are lying empty. I'm talking about cities that lie empty in China. Houses that keep on building, construction, they keep on constructing more stuff, but no one's living there. No one's generating income there. And that is the big problem, and why house prices keep on increasing, but there's going to be a reset there. And when the economy gets affected, China will be affected massively, and their values of their properties are already overinflated. Hence why you're going to see massive, drops is up to 75% there. So when you start to see all of this stuff here, another thing that I take into consideration, and I watch whether you do it or not, is politics. Now, It doesn't matter what side you're on or if you take no infinity to anyone. The key is to keep a pulse on the market. Love or hate the guy, Donald Trump. Let's look at what's happening here, because this is important to know. Donald Trump, first and foremost, no president, no prime minister, no president or prime minister is responsible for the economy. That's economics playing itself out and just everything happening. But look at Donald Trump. What's he been doing over the last 4 years since he's been in power? He's taking credit for every single thing. He's taking credit for the all-time low in unemployment. He's taking credit for the stock market booming. He's taking credit for the global, for negotiating all these global deals and so forth. He's taking credit for every good thing that's coming from the US. And then he's also deflecting and putting all the negativity on China, negativity on Europe, negativity on everybody else. But what's happened recently, if you listen to the Democratic debates, whether you're into that thing or not, and I like to keep a pulse on this, all the Democrats have started to take a similar storyline. And this is to create a new story. So what they've basically said is, well, if Donald Trump can take all the credit for all the good that US is doing, well, let's use that, because we know we're going into a recession and he can't do anything about it. So let's use the fact that Donald Trump is leading us into a recession and blame him. And now all the Democrats are talking about an impending global recession. It's going to be worse than ever is before. And they're blaming Donald Trump for pumping up the market. And remember, no president is responsible, but Donald Trump has made a very big mistake by taking all the credit for the good. And watch how he's saying things like the Democrats are trying to wish it into recession, China's this, China, they're blaming everybody else. So Donald Trump is trying so hard to kick the can down the road, delay things a little bit more, blaming things on the Fed, keeping interest rates low, and blaming things on the trade war with China, the Democrats' wishes into recession and all that kind of stuff, so he can try and get back into power, and then the recession is going to fucking hit. And when it hits, does it matter? No, because he's there in power for another 4 years. But we need to understand that no president, no prime minister is going to save us. We need to start looking at our personal economy first. So we need to look at being shrewd with our money, making the right investments, understanding that if we're buying property, we make money when we buy and buy property right in the first place. We don't get caught with emotion. We make sure we get the right investment criteria. We really make sure that we're buying at discount. We make sure that we're factoring in the market slowing down and potential recession. Now, a lot of people say, well, Paul, should I wait to get started in property? That's the last thing you should do. It's the last thing. There's never been a better time to get involved in property than right now. Why? Because you're getting the edge, first mover advantage. It's about getting that unfair advantage over everyone else. Because I got so much lending through the last recession, and that was a result of building up a track record. So use now the period through the end of 2019 into 2020 to use that time to get the right knowledge, because you don't know what you don't know. And with uncertainty and an imminent global recession, knowledge is so freaking important. Having the right support to make sure you don't make those costly mistakes, making sure you are buying the right property, the right investment criteria, the right understanding, working with people who understand the economy and keep the pulse on when to pivot and what strategy is going to be the right strategy. And more importantly, you need to right now take personal economy as an importance and understand you need to have a cash flow strategy. I don't care who you are and what industry you're involved in, or what the fact that you're watching this video tells me that you genuinely want to make sure you take your own personal finances into your own control, and you don't fall foul of losing a job that you thought you were securing, because no job you're securing, not a single job on this planet you secure, especially through a global recession. So we need to make sure that how can we set ourselves up, especially through property, to generate cash flow and have a cash flow strategy. So when you do have a recession, and it's not going to happen overnight. Remember, this is going to be slow and long with all the indicators that's happening. And with this in mind, that means that property prices and everything else is not going to just drop overnight. It will take time to decline over a number of years. So that's why you have got an edge right now to get started and really make the most of the next 12 to 24 months. And you'll have the sale of a lifetime. You'll be able to go in there and buy property in London that most people say, I wish I could buy property 20 years ago in London. Now I could never afford it. But you're going to have that opportunity again. And it's not just London, it's anywhere, because you're getting the knowledge right at the right possible time. Get yourself set up to take full advantage. I know lots of people myself included, I was very fortunate to get involved in property right before 2008. 2006 into 2007, I got involved in property. So I had that first mover advantage. So when the recession hit, I was able to grow aggressively, build a significant 7-figure property portfolio, have lots of cash flow through our business. You know, we made £1 million in just 1 year through property trading through the recession and continued to build upon that. We were just doing so many deals and built strong foundations that set us up very well today. So we make sure that my biggest regret in the last recession is I wasn't more aggressive. I'm not going to make that same mistake again now. I'm going to make sure we're going to be more aggressive today, take advantage of what needs to happen. So when things start to turn, we have that first mover advantage, that position with a track record to go and build significant wealth. So you need to become aware of this. It's going to be happening. It's a given. It's not if it's going to happen. It's now a matter of when. And a lot of indicators are pointing towards the end of 2019 into 2020, most definitely the middle of 2020. Most likely you'll be hearing the UK is going into recession. It won't just be us, it will be global. And the trigger point at this time will be banking failures and economies such as countries that are going to start going under with no government bailouts, with no printing of money. And that is deeply concerning for those who are not open to what's happening and position themselves right now. I hope that people don't look back and regret and say, I wish I started getting things ready now in 2019 prior to a recession. I hope I don't hear things like, I wish I had a cash flow strategy and I wasn't so dependent on my job. I hope I don't hear that stuff. And the only way that you won't is if you take action now. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to keeping a tab on what's happening and updating you as things start to evolve and go forward. So all the best, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.